Thank you. Very good morning to all. It's a privilege and honor to be here with this august audience and be able to share the thoughts. Thank you, ASSOCHAM, for this opportunity and compliments for organizing this wonderful session on sustainable logistics for India's warehousing and logistics sector. So as we stand on the crossroad of challenges and opportunity, there cannot be any more opportune time to discuss the issues we are facing and the kind of challenges which are lying ahead. And before we talk about all that, and I'm going to talk about not much about data and facts. What we are going to focus about some thoughts, what we would like to share here. Now we often hear the terms what you see on the slide, digital twins, IoT, sustainability. Now why do we hear them? Because it's not a choice anymore. Industries, companies, authorities have realized that it's not a choice, it's not an option. When we have to talk about a long-term vision, we have to talk about sustainability, IoT and digital twin for that matter. A lot has happened over the years. Over the last 3 years, if you look at, even the government has been pushing very, very actively. And we heard from the distinguished panel since morning, various initiatives the government has taken up as far as this space is concerned. Green logistic push and foreign investment, increased foreign investment is what we have been hearing for a while now. Mr. Anshul has mentioned about how we have moved and come from, say, a godown to a smart warehouse. And indeed we have. We look at the format we were a few years back and where we are right now, we have made a significant improvement. And we have a lot to cover as well. We also spoke about the quick delivery. Now he also mentioned about why and how this has changed the way we are kind of managing and interacting with e-commerce. And this really is very, very significant improvement. Now I split my time between India and Dubai, and when I am in Dubai, I miss quick commerce the most. The 10-minute delivery is something which has spoiled us. And in a country like India, doing something like that at that scale, a lot of advanced economies have not been able to do that. And it's a really big compliment, big achievement. Of course, I miss UPI also, but there's something for some other conference, some other event. Now, let's look at the key themes. Circular economy, we all talk about. We also talk about smart logistics. I spent some time on smart logistics and why this is important, how this is transforming the way logistic ecosystem is getting developed around the world. A lot of countries, a lot of cities have specifically focused on IoT, digital twin. Amazon, for that matter, they tested the fully robotic warehouse and now they are implementing it in Louisville in US. Soon they are going to have it in practice. Now, if we have system like that, are we ready there? Are we there yet? Are we ready for that kind of a system? This is something which we have to kind of think about. Of course, we have done a significant leap. We have moved a lot ahead. We have progressed a lot in IoT, and there is some, of course, a room also to cover. Cold chain and perishable, this is another area which has been, of course, in talk. Blessing in disguise, COVID also made us realize that this is one area we cannot avoid. We have to have a robust system for cold chain movement in place. Now, before we come to some of the issues, another thing which I would like to talk about is, see, when we talk about supply chain, when we talk about logistics, anomaly is a normal. My friends in supply chain operation may relate it. When it comes to supply chain operation, there is always a exigency which you would have to plan for. There has to be a plan B, there has to be plan C. And this is something you always have to kind of think about. You have to have an exigencies place. You have to have your disruption management system in place. Now, while we do that, and while we talked about some of the development positive things which we have been able to achieve so far, what is that is creating problems for us? What is that we are trying to solve here? What is what we are trying to achieve here? Now, this image what you see here is a typical representation of the issues what we see in urban mega cities in India. Lot of times there is a queuing in the periphery of the cities because there is an entry restriction, there is a time delay, cost overrun, and more than that, there is an economic impact of waiting at the gate or at the border of a city. Now, that is something which is affecting not only the economy, but also the health, environment, because of various other related issues which we face there. When we talk about warehousing, there also things have changed a lot, and we have made a significant progress as we heard since morning. What we also see when we talk about IoT, now IoT is something which is generally implementable in a large scale format. When it comes to very small scale format, the economy of scale would not be there, the cost economy would not be there, and there may be not financial viability to implement a system like that. Now, how do you do that? How do you break it into a bite-sized pieces is something which is important to understand and important to consider. Urban we have spoken about. What about rural logistics? Now we have some interesting panel on rural logistics where we are going to talk about what are the key challenges in rural logistics and how do we kind of mitigate those risks. But when we talk about and when we compare urban versus rural, now urban is something we obviously have road connectivity, but the issues are different. But when it comes to rural, there is a market, there is a service provider, there is a aggregator. Now, how do you connect? The road connectivity, rail connectivity might be an issue in most of the cases. Other thing what we are witnessing is, when it comes to warehousing, most of the grade A warehousing are coming around the transit hub or maybe mega cities in India. Now, when Jewar Airport was announced, there was a traction of various warehousing activities, large scale warehousing format around Jewar Airport. This was not there earlier when the airport was, of course, not in, on paper. Interestingly, tier 2 and tier 3 cities have been witnessing the increased traction. That is something which has, we have seen over the last few years. This is what has increased a lot. Now, how do we overcome these challenges? How are other cities doing it? What is that? Is there any success story? Is there any failure we can look at? Now, this is one classic case, and it's one of my favorite. When I generally talk about challenges in logistics, I pick this topic. Volkswagen developed this system in Germersheim. So they have a transparent factory where they manufacture car. This factory is called transparent factory because this has this glass enclosure where you actually can go and oversee the operations at the factory. It's a tourist place actually. So they developed a tram system to move their OEMs and finished cars from factory to the logistics sourcing hub and vice versa. Now, while they did that, they achieved and managed multiple things. One, they reduced the dependency on trucks. Second, they managed their own system in their own way because they now are in control of their inventory. They also are in control of their supply chain. Third, they also managed to bring down the trucks or vehicles from road and bring it to a sustainable mode. Unfortunately, this system collapsed or ended during the COVID in 2020, November 2020, they had to cease that operation. But this was one of the classic cases how a system like this can function and what would probably not work in a system like that. Now, when we come back to India and talk about India again, there is one interesting development what we see now is rapid rail transport system, which is Namo Bharat trains. Proudly, we were involved with the World Bank and we did a business plan for NCRTC where we did cargo mapping and possibility of moving a cargo on a train like which is supposed to carry passengers for a short distance. Short, when I say, is a regional short distance. So between say 50 to 80 kilometers or 100 kilometers, how do you manage cargo movement in sync with the passenger movement? Now, this is what NCRT is trying to achieve, and what they are trying to do is utilize the non-peak hours, non-peak in passenger hours to move the cargo from Meerut to center of Delhi, which is Sarai Kale Khan, Meerut to SNB, and Meerut to Panipat. So this system is something which they are planning, designing right now, but hopefully we'll see it soon in implementation. Similarly, we also have seen that Delhi Metro also has talked about integrating cargo, parcel cargo specifically, on the passenger route network. Now, if this kind of system we are able to develop, we are solving multiple issues as we have seen in the case of Germersheim. Now, Germersheim again was the not first case or not the last. There are other cities also which we have implemented similar system like that. Paris RER for that matter, Monoprix, they develop system like that where they are managing the FMCG movement from their multiple warehousing hub to the sourcing location, and they are doing it through train, urban rail. Now, similar kind of system, if you are able to implement and design for India, this can be a game changer. And cities like Delhi, cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, there is a huge potential. We already have a system in place. So the good part about developing something like that, for a cargo movement, you don't need to develop a new added infrastructure. You already have station building, you have rolling stock, you have system in place. Only thing you have to do is maybe refurbish some trains, which we did in the case of RRTS also, NCRTC also. We had multiple round of discussion with Alstom and Bombardier and tried to redesign those coaches. That is what can be done in this case as well. So this is one of the ways system can be integrated and the passenger and cargo movement can be in sync. Indian Railway also is trying to do something on similar lines. Coming to rural logistics now, we spoke about urban. We have seen the issues what we see in urban are slightly different than what we see in rural. Now rural is a big market, and we have realized, everyone has realized, companies have realized that rural is not a kind of, if I can use that word, liability anymore. Rural logistics is not a liability anymore. It's an opportunity. It's a big opportunity. It's an asset. And the only challenge what we currently are facing is connecting the centers, connecting the producers to the market. That is what is going on right now. There are various policy initiatives which the government has picked up, taken up, and trying to implement. India Post, for that matter, they are also tying up with railways, Indian Railways, and trying to come up with the integrated service. On multimodal logistic hub, now PM Gati Shakti, as we all know, we had a discussion in the panel in the morning session. We heard about it. PM Gati Shakti is not only a program; it's a transformative kind of it's not a project. It's a program which is transforming the logistic ecosystem. It's not about creating some infrastructure, but it's about creating a ecosystem. So we have seen that multiple MMLPs and Gati Shakti cargo terminals are coming up. Now, when we see the opportunities in logistics in India, there are multiple opportunities. There are many things happening. And what we would like to conclude here is saying that if you look at multiple elements, if you look at, even if you pick a particular theme, say automation, you talk about green logistics, you talk about circular economy, you talk about, a lot is happening. A lot is, of course, yet to be covered. But there are opportunities, there are potential, there are fairly high to high potential in many things which is happening around. And the very interesting and good part is that there is a supportive ecosystem now. There is a support from the government. There is a policy push, which is what we have seen in last couple of years. With that, I would like to conclude here, and thanks to everyone. Thanks to ASSOCHAM for having us here. And then we look forward to have engagements, more engagements in the panel discussion we have going forward. Thank you.